Each year, the eyes of the world focus on a single dirt track. And in just 2 minutes, it all becomes history. Join ESPN for the traditional Run for the Roses. The first duel in the fabled Triple Crown. From Churchill Downs, the 2004 Kentucky Derby. Sunday live on ESPN.
You're watching Citgo Kentucky Derby Week coverage on ESPN.
This is SportsCenter.
The road to the 2004 Kentucky Derby was paved with good intentions and speed bumps. Favorites were knocked off stride nearly every week.
Richard Migliore and Friends Blake win!
Improbable winners and big payoffs lit up the toad boards.
Castledale wins the Derby ahead to Rock on 10.
Now it's just 3 days before the Kentucky Derby. And here at Churchill Downs, the beaten favorites and those who took them down all see roses in their future. The result, more entries than the starting gates can hold. Some are trained by guys like three-time Derby winner Bob Baffert and Nick Zito, who's won twice. Others by Derby rookies of varying ages, genders, and backgrounds. In the next hour, we'll tell you who's running and from where, and how we think they'll perform. The spectacle that is the first Saturday in May begins with the post-position draw on SportsCenter at the Kentucky Derby.
Welcome, sports fans. Louisville, Kentucky, in advance of Kentucky Derby number 130. They have gathered at the Kentucky Derby Museum to figure out who's going to start where in a full field of 20 for Saturday Kentucky Derby. The Lewises, a very happy couple, and Derby champions. Notice no one is wearing a sponsor logo on their suit jackets. It just doesn't work tonight. I would have worn one, but I couldn't get one sponsor. This process started back in 1998. When after the field had been limited to 20 some years back, they decided, well, let's have the owners and the trainers find out where they want to start instead of just doing the pill pull. So they come into the room after earlier in the day figuring out who will pick when. They get to make the selection next about where their horse will break from the starting gate. 2 starting gates actually here at Churchill Downs for the 1.25 miles. 1.25 miles on the line. Of course, there's the Visa bonus if you can sweep all the way through. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Somebody has to emerge from this because it's been a cluttered spring season. Of course, it's a grade 1. And because you never see horses do this more than once, they have to be 3. But that's for those who've never watched. The winner gets a trophy, Randy Moss. But after this spring season going in, who knows who's going to get that? In fact, who knows who should deserve to be the favorite at this point?
Cluttered was a good way to describe the way the prep races have gone. Horses have taken turns beating each other. We've been talking about that now for the last 2 months. And when you get an evenly matched field like this, of course, small things can take on a larger degree of importance. And for that reason, I think more than in most years, this Kentucky Derby draw has been especially eagerly anticipated.
As pointed out, since '98, they got to select, but just recently they got to select early in the day as to who would pick in what order when they go up to the board and find out what hole they want to start from. So they did the old-style pill pull, and this is simply to determine what order the 20 trainers and owners get to select where their horse will break from. Here's the actual selection order. Minister Eric going to try to win off an allowance race. At least has the advantage of getting to pick first, Randy.
One of the most interesting points here, in my opinion, is that since I can remember, since we've been doing this really since 1998, I think there are fewer major contenders impacted by the selection order than ever before. Even Tapit, who will start with the 16th selection order, really is a come-from-behind horse who shouldn't be that disadvantaged. But Clinton's Gold Rush now from selection order number 20 If he winds up stuck on the rail in the #1 post position, it could have an impact on the pace because he could be forced to get out there early, and it could really speed up the early fractions.
There are people holding future tickets who now have to tear them up because there's a couple of good ones who didn't get in. Number 21, Eddington.
The trend has been more and more toward lightly raced horses, but here's the flip side. Sometimes horses can be so lightly raced, then in a year like this, they don't have the graded earnings to get in. Two of the best 3-year-olds in the country, Eddington and Rock Hard 10, on the outside looking in, probably now pointing for the Preakness.
Well, the story gets tired that there's no Secretariat in this year's field because there was only one Secretariat. There's 20 good stories. We had to do something of a poll of our own because some of these, the one you're going to start with, has multiple stories of its own.
We could almost go an hour on Smarty Jones alone. Now, this is a horse, of course, that suffered that fractured skull as a 2-year-old in a starting gate accident, almost died. The man responsible for his mating was murdered. Owner, trainer, jockey, all at the Kentucky Derby for the very first time. A Pennsylvania bred. And how about the punchline? With a win in the Kentucky Derby thanks to a bonus offered by Oaklawn Park, he'd be in for a payday, an all-time record payday, $5.9 million roughly.
Then there's the 21-year-old trainer, Kristen Mulha, out of California. Her father, a trainer, didn't want to see her go into the sport, but the story goes that she used to hold her breath to get her way when she was a young child. She talked her dad into it because she's a very, very good trainer. Not only that, she rides the horses. She works them out. She was on Imperialism today. Imperialism, a factor in this Kentucky Derby. Dave Johnson not only going to administer the whole thing, but he has a story to share with us right now.
Well, the TV show The Bachelor has its equivalent in racing this weekend, and it's jockey Jerry Bailey, because Jerry and his agent, Ron Anderson, have had their choice of many horses, many good ones. In fact, Bailey has ridden 4 of the horses in the field, but not the horse that he gave the rose to. That was Wimbledon. Now, if he made the right decision, it'll be Jerry who'll be adjusting a blanket of roses around the neck of Wimbledon in the winner's circle. But when he gets a leg up in the paddock on Saturday, that's the first time that Jerry and Wimbledon will be racing as a team in the appropriately named Run for the Roses. Janine Edwards is at the selection board. Janine, who you got your eye on?
Well, my story goes something like this. He feeds a diet of organic sod, raw eggs, Guinness beer, and herbal supplements. But that's just a small part of the unique environment that trainer Michael Dickinson strives to provide his horses, including Tappet, at his farm in Maryland, where he endeavored to create the perfect training environment. Now, some say he's obsessed with detail, others say he's a mad genius, and indeed he's accomplished some unimaginable training feats. He's even listed in the Guinness Book of World Records. And while he is a fanatic for detail, he is also obsessed with success. And Kenny, the Derby is now in his sights.
Well, Dickinson actually brought beer for everyone tonight. That's for after the selection process. There's many more stories. You can find them all week on ESPN and ESPN2 and on ESPN.com. If you like to win money but don't like to gamble, play the Long John Silver's Pick 6. It's free. There's money available. We're going to put him in the starting gate as this hour develops. But up next, Randy Moss will tell you about breaking from the gate. Stay around. Sports Center Kentucky Derby continues right after this.
To you by Citgo, fueling the greatest of American sports. By Visa, proud sponsor of the Visa Triple Crown. By Michelob Ultra, lose the carbs, not the taste. By Long John Silver's new Buffalo Chicken Planks. By Argent Mortgage, ask your mortgage broker about an Argent loan. And by Bessemer Trust, enhancing private wealth for generations.
Welcome back to Louisville, getting set up for the 130th Kentucky Derby. Bobby Frankel's in the room. Bob Baffert's in the room. Patrick Biancone. Powerful men and women in this room, including Nick Zito, who has 2 going forward. Find out more about their horses all week long as we carry forward on both ESPN and ESPN2. It begins with Wire to Wire, 4 o'clock Eastern. That's on ESPN2 Thursday. Breakfast at Churchill in the morning, all the way through the Kentucky Oaks on Friday. Then Saturday, very early Saturday, like late Friday, handicapping the Derby. Hank will tell you what to do. The Derby specials at 2:30 at ESPN Eastern. And then after the race, come back for ESPN2 to wrap the whole thing up. Just leave your TVs on starting now. All right, Randy, mile and a quarter. Everyone's looking at the wire to find out who can get there, but you got to go back. The start of the race is so important when you got 20 horses.
Yeah, everybody seems to have their own opinions about what the best post positions are. We even heard Roger Maris's uniform, number 9, invoked one year as a criterion for selection. But there is a seemingly fairly unanimous opinion, though, about the post positions that most want to avoid.
The Kentucky Derby is known for crowds, those wearing hats and holding mint juleps and losing tickets, and crowds of horses. The last time 20 horses left the Derby starting gate was 20 years ago. So in a field like this, what post positions do trainers and jockeys want? Certainly not the inside posts.
If you're talking about the 1 or 2 hole, is that usually the gate almost sits behind the rail. If you look at the configuration of the racetrack and where the gate sets, if you break from the 1 hole and you go straight right down, you'll probably hit the rail.
And 4 years ago, that is what almost happened to 2-year-old champion Anise, who broke from post number 1. Of course, post 1 has produced more Derby winners than any other post, but much of that is ancient history. Ferdinand in 1986 is the only horse in the last 40 years to win the Derby from the rail post. Doesn't always happen that way, but horses that break from inside posts in big fields run the risk of becoming surrounded, hemmed in by the throng to their outside. That run to and around the first turn is critical, and it can be very rough. But far outside posts can also be trouble.
If you break off the extreme outside and you're going into the first turn, if you have a horse that just has tactical speed, there's a good chance that you're going to get hung up extremely wide and lose an extreme amount of ground. You're going to expend a great deal of energy, and you're not going to have it at the end.
Horses will be loaded into the gate 2 at a time, and the recent fad is to choose posts that require horses to spend the least amount of time in the gate.
If you're going to load and it takes a long time, those horses are sitting on a tension-type situation. Horses pick up on tension and excitement quicker than any 2 things. And what happens, you got the crowd right on top of the gate. And when they say they're in the gate or loading in the gate, they start to roar, and so everything starts to intensify.
2 starting gates will be used, and believe it or not, tires are also at issue.
When you put those 2 gates together, you've got the wheels. The gates are not side by side, so now 14 and 15 have a little margin for error. If they duck in or out, you can adjust to that. You're not as tight as you are, say, in the 6, 7, 8, 9, or the regular gates.
But whether inside, outside, or in the middle, in the end, it all comes down to luck. In 2002, Medaglia d'Oro had the perfect post, and look what happened.
You have to be right on the right day, and a lot of things have to go in your favor. One thing going wrong could cost you the race.
Randy, going back over the last 25 years, and this predates when they got to select where they would start from, the 10 has been the best spot the last 25 years, 5 wins. The 5 has been the next best at 4 wins, 3, 15, and 16 at 3. The winning numbers from the Fronton last night were 4 and 8, but that's another story. All right, since they've been picking, though, what's been favored?
The most favorite post position so far has been number 7. It's been chosen 3 times. There you see all of the horses that were the first selection there, and you can see
they didn't do
so far
well.
They haven't run very well. And Buddha had post 10 in 2002. He was scratched. Now, one criterion, as we said, for selection could be the order in which the horses are loaded into the gate. They're double loaded, so you'll see the horses at the bottom of that list, 10 and 20, 9 and 19, 8 and 18, will spend the least amount of time in the starting gate. That's why 10, 9, and 8, and 7 have been popular post positions. But this could change slightly, and by that, here's what I mean. The starter, Roger Nagel, has the option given to him by the stewards. If he deems that any one particular horse could be a problem loading and could delay things, he has the option of loading that horse first before all others, and he is known to be at least looking at Smarty Jones and Friends Lake.
Smarty Jones tried to kick me today. It's also another story. We're going to come back and we're going to find out who they are and where they're picking, where they'll break from in the 130th running of the Kentucky Derby. Stay around. Sports Centers in Louisville.
This presentation of the National Thoroughbred Racing Association continues on ESPN.
Thanks for watching SportsCenter at the Kentucky Derby. Please be watching SportsCenter from Bristol, Connecticut. At the top of the hour, Kobe's day in court. Will he be on the court? Better days for Jeter, and meet the real Diesel. Right now, meet the first 7 in the selection order. First, Minister Eric. Now, the last time a horse won the Kentucky Derby off an allowance victory, Cannonade, back in 1974. Minister Eric getting to go first.
Next will be Master David, a close second in the Wood Memorial, trying to give trainer Bobby Frankel and that guy, jockey Alex Solis, that elusive first Derby win.
Friends Lake won at big odds in the Florida Derby, then straight to the Kentucky Derby. Not since Needles in 1956. As a winner of the Derby not raced in April.
Sunken right eye and all, Imperialism won 2 stakes races at Santa Anita, then had trouble in the stretch at the Santa Anita Derby.
St. Avril disappointing in the Santa Anita Derby as the favorite, and that was after a very, very nice run in the San Felipe just a few weeks before.
Next up will be action this day, trying to become the first Bessemer Trust Breeders' Cup Juvenile winner to win the Kentucky Derby, but he has been off form in his last 2 starts.
Wimbledon, DeGray won the Louisiana Derby in the Javier Santiago era. Now it's Bailey and Baffert teaming up for Wimbledon. 7th choice on the board to run the whole thing is our man, Dave Johnson.
So the order has been drawn, and we're going to proceed with that order. Now, when a horse's name is called, the representative for that horse will have 60 seconds to come on up and hang the silks on one of the post positions that remain. Failure to do so in the time allotted, well, that horse will go to the end of the line in the selection process. If any questions arise, the officials up here at the table will take care of it and adjudicate any problem. Joining me here is Dr. Ted Hill, who is the acting chief steward for the Kentucky Racing Authority. And Ted, the microphone will be on at all times. And with the stopwatch in his hand is our, counting the knockdowns at the bell, our timer is the Vice President of Communications for Churchill Downs, John Asher. Okay, time to begin the process. First in the selection process, start the watch, Minister Eric, the trainer, Richard Mandella.
The same kind of day he had at Breeders' Cup, huh?
Yeah, in '99, he also had the first pick with Desert Hero. That day, he chose post 7, and he's right back at 7 again.
He's not really a predictable guy all the time, but he goes for 7 right here. He will break from 7 as the first pick, Minister Eric, trying to be like Cannonade, I can't say it, back in '74, Dave.
And the guy who just shook his hand is Pat Day, who won the Kentucky Derby with Lily T in '92. He'll be aboard. Second in the process, Master David, the trainer, Bobby Frankel.
Now, when Frankel had the second pick in 2002 with Medaglia d'Oro, he chose post position number 9. That is actually Peter Menike's, the owner.
Well, ownership has its privileges. He's going to the 8, right outside of Minister Eric. So nothing out of form so far, certainly.
Not at all. We saw the most popular post chosen in past years, and it's falling right in line, I think.
Dave Johnson, who's next?
And by the way, the jockey for that will be Alex Solis, a winner of more than 4,000 races. Next is Friends Lake. John Kimmel is the trainer.
Friends Lake, the upset winner in the Florida Derby. Some people kind of discredited that race, but you've seen some others come out of it and do quite well, so maybe that victory meant more than some people thought at first.
Friends Lake can be a bit of a handful going into the gate, but instead of going to the outside for the load, they go to post number 6.
Imperialism is next. Is that true, Dave Johnson?
That is, but let's mention that Richard Migliori, who was in the saddle for the Florida Derby, will ride Friends Lake. Imperialism is next. John, start the clock, and Christine Mulhall trains.
Yeah, but it's the owner going to take charge here.
Steve Taub is the owner. Keep in mind, this is the horse that's blind in his right eye. He doesn't particularly like horses crowded outside of him, so they will go a little further out, post number 10 for Imperialism.
And 10, the most favored position to be in, at least in the last quarter century, Dave.
And let's go to Janine.
Kristen's just 21 years old. She's been training a little less than 2 years, and the Derby, of course, an overwhelming experience for the most seasoned veteran. How are you holding up so far?
So far, it's been great. It's been a great experience, and we're just taking every bit of it in and having a lot of fun.
This horse was a maiden $25,000 claimer at Calder, and you guys purchased him. Did you even dare to dream Derby Trail after you got him?
Not at the beginning, we didn't, and when we got him, he really surprised all of us and just kept getting better and got better at the right time.
What's the best thing about him that people don't know yet?
He has a huge heart. He'll try as hard as he can every single time and give you all he has.
All right, well, we'll wish you the best of luck and enjoy the experience. Dave.
And Kent DeSormo will ride. Kent, of course, has won the Kentucky Derby twice with Fusaichi Pegasus and then with Real Quiet. Fifth in the process, St. Avril. And the trainer is Rafael Becerra.
Well, Becerra will be at his first Kentucky Derby. Tyler Bays, his jockey, will be in his second Derby. And let's see where we go. There's a hole there in the middle, right at number 9. And he nails it.
Yeah, they're staying close so far. We expected a tightly contested race. Out of this break here, we got them all lined up from 10 on down to 6.
The youngest rider in the field, Tyler Bays, will have the riding assignment. Next and 6th in the process is Action This Day, another one who's trained by Richard Mandella.
Mandella won with this in the Bessemer Trust Breeders' Cup Juvenile, but as we know, Randy, what? Doesn't usually work out.
No horse that has won the Juvenile has gone on to win the Kentucky Derby, and Richard will go inside to post number 4. Interesting choice for Action This Day. He's a come from behind her, though, so the post position generally doesn't matter quite as much for those.
Janine's downstairs to find out about the selection.
Richard, kind of a disappointing start to the season for Action This Day. This year, you said he hurt his back in the Bluegrass Stakes. Is the back now under control?
The back's good, but I say he came out of the Bluegrass sore in his back, but I believe it may have started in the San Felipe Stake.
Where he was clipped heels from behind, that kind of rough jostling going into the first turn.
Could have started the problem there, and then the Bluegrass polished it off enough that we could see it, and consequently he's moving well now, and I think we're in good shape.
So the signs that you're seeing is that he's 100% now?
I believe so, yeah.
Is his Breeders' Cup Juvenile form good enough to win the Kentucky Derby on Saturday?
I'll tell you Saturday night.
And Minister Eric, you gave him, I will ask you that too, you gave him a little bit of an easier route than Action This Day. Why was that?
He was eligible for non-winners of 2.
Good spot.
We lost that condition when we won the Breeders' Cup.
Now, did he need a confidence boost?
I did.
And I'm assuming you got it. All right. Good luck, Rich. Thank you.
And aboard for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile victory last fall, was David Flores, who will ride again on Saturday. And 7th in the process is Wimbledon. Bob Baffert is the trainer. Start the clock.
Well, he was off a maiden win to go and win and beat everybody in Louisiana. He had Javier Santiago, who he liked a lot, has been riding a lot out in California, but wasn't so pleased about what happened next. He's gone to a guy named Jerry Bailey.
Had some consultation there. You think we can change his mind at this point? Probably not.
I think he was just milking it. He's at 5. They're packed together right now after 7 selections for the 130th Kentucky Derby, and Bob Baffert is all set up to describe how he feels about Wimbledon.
Bob almost had 2 horses in the race, preaching at the bar, not going to run, but Wimbledon is. His last race was not the kind of effort, I'm sure, that you wanted from him. What happened there?
Well, I think there was numerous things that went wrong there. I think after he won the Louisiana Derby, I think I went sort of easy on him because I trained him pretty hard. He had some hard races in these maiden races. I backed off. And I think we found his style. You know, he went a little bit early in that race, and so we did some different things. And since he's gotten here, he's really blossomed and really looks fantastic.
And you got a great rider too in Jerry Bailey. Good luck, Bob.
Thank you.
And by the way, Jerry Bailey has won the Derby twice. Sea Hero and Grindstone brought him to the winner's circle after the run for the Roses. Okay, Kenny, we have 7 and a few more to go.
5 a good spot for him?
Well, incidentally, the last 2 Kentucky Derby winners have come from post position number 5.
You saw Nick Zito. He's going after another Derby. He's got 2 runners this time. We're coming back with the next group from Louisville, setting up the starting gate.
Each year, the eyes of the world focus on a single dirt track. And in just 2 minutes, it all becomes history. Join ESPN for the traditional Run for the Roses. The first jewel in the fabled Triple Crown. From Churchill Downs, the 2004 Kentucky Derby. Sunday live on ESPN.
Back here inside the Kentucky Derby Museum. Last year, they're going to do the draw show from here. They'll just line up and race from wherever they want after this. Now, they have a new, fancier facility, which ties in right here. Churchill Downs, not yet set for the inspection by the Queen. Think of it like playing in the yard while Dad is working on the car. They're fancying this place up by next April, brand spanking new, but it'll be packed nonetheless for Saturday's 130th Kentucky Derby. So 7 are set. we're ready to introduce the next 7 and find out where their owners and trainers want to place them in the starting gate. Nick Zito's backup originally was the Cliff's Edge, but he's emerged now as one of the favorites for this Kentucky Derby.
Then it will be Pollard's Vision. He's blind in his right eye, but that didn't stop him from winning the Illinois Derby easily. That's his good eye. That's his left eye, by the way.
Borrego going to be coming late on Saturday and maybe to the front. 3 straight second-place finishes in graded stakes.
Smarty Jones, the winner of the Arkansas Derby, will have the next selection. He's not a great, big, statuesque type of horse, but you can see he's pretty well put together, and he looks even better in motion. He's undefeated. He'll be ridden by Stuart Elliott.
Read the footnotes had nothing in the Florida Derby, but some people contended it was beachfront. Fountain of Youth, same track, tore him up, put up a huge figure.
Birdstone has had a spotty spring. Of course, he was beaten in the Lanes End as the heavy favorite. Then he had to miss the Bluegrass, but in happier days, this is Birdstone winning an allowance race earlier this year at Gulfstream Park. He'll be a long shot.
Lionheart, very talented horse. Patrick Biancone, we're told last night, I predict victory. Except that was more like a Spanish imitation, and he's French. Patrick Biancone loves this runner, and a lot of the bettors will as well. As we move forward, Dave Johnson, the next 7 in the lineup.
Okay, Kenny. 8th now, after we have the first 7, the Cliff's Edge. Start the clock, trained by Nick Zito, and I understand that the owner, Robert LaPinta, will make the choice.
All right, again, the Cliff's Edge is a horse that rallies from well back in the pack, so even if he had a far outside post position, it probably wouldn't matter much, and that's a predictable choice, number 11.
Good mid-pack spot to start, move over if he wants, or stay a bit wide into the first turn. Dave? Janine Edwards now with comments on that selection.
Robert LaPinta and Nick Zito joining me now. Nick, at the beginning of the season, this horse was really considered your 3rd stringer. Is it a little surprising that he may be one of the Derby favorites?
Well, you know, I think with the other 2 I had, they were ahead of the Cliff's Edge, but in any other stable at this time, we were very, very fortunate, very blessed to have 3 horses of this caliber. But when he finished the year winning the Kentucky Jockey Club at Churchill Downs, unfortunately for him, Birdstone had won the Champagne and Earl Silva had won the Lanes End Futurity. That kind of put him in 3rd spot. But as the year went on, you know, as the winter went on, and as we're here now, Cliffs looks like he's come right to the top. His Bluegrass was tremendous, and Florida Derby obviously was a good race, and what could I say, he's carried us to this point.
And Robert, you haven't been in the horse racing business all that long, but it looks like you're starting to have the Midas touch.
It's been a great year, and we're just delighted to be here. It's been a great ride since he broke his maiden in September, so we're just hoping for the best on Saturday.
All right, we'll wish you the best of luck. Dave?
Shane Sellers aboard for the Bluegrass Victory, will be aboard on Saturday, the Cliff's Edge. Now, 9th in the process, start the clock. Pollard's Vision is the name of the next one.
Well, the winner of the Illinois Derby and what War Emblem turned out to be in 10 Most Wanted, it would indicate that this one has some run.
Edgewood farm owner David Moore, now 17, the choice for Pollard's Vision. Keep in mind, we mentioned Imperialism has limited vision in his right eye. Pollard's Vision, totally blind in his right eye, so they don't want to be in a situation down inside where they're crowded in a spot where he can't see.
All right, carry on, Dave Johnson.
Pollard's Vision is trained by Todd Pletcher. John Velazquez, who won all 3 major riding titles in New York last year, is the pilot of Pollard's Vision. 10th in the process, Borrego, trained by Bo Greeley.
Borrego's going to get a lot of action. This one in 3 straight stakes, a 2nd place finisher. You know he's competitive, you know he's trying, and you know he should be around and can carry the distance.
And there is Bo Greeley in his first Kentucky Derby. Interesting choice here, inside or outside. Again, 1, 2, 3. Horsemen seem to avoid those like the plague, and Greeley will go for 12.
That's 3 selections here, 4 more to go. And Dave Johnson.
And let's give the jockey assignment. Victor Espinoza, who won the 2002 Kentucky Derby with War Emblem, will be aboard Borrego. And 11th in the process, the horse that Randy said we could talk an hour about, it's Smarty Jones. Start the clock, 60 seconds.
Well, nothing to knock. Smarty Jones has not lost a horse race. Got up to a big-time level and proved it yet again in its last.
There is trainer John Service. Interesting.